Welcome, viewers, to Bodhi Unified Flow. Here, we simplify complexity and amplify performance. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here for this explainer. Today, we are talking all about value stream mapping, VSM for short, and how we can hunt down those pesky inefficiencies in our project life cycles. We are zeroing in on step 3, designing the future state, which is all about creating that beautifully optimized to-be workflow. This is exactly where theory meets reality. Look, if you've already mapped out your current state, you probably know exactly where your bottlenecks are hiding, right? Well, today we are going to uncover how to actually transform those workflows, crush those painful delays, and build a system that literally just flows. Here is our quick roadmap for today. 1. Welcome and learning objectives. 2. Defining the future state. 3. Core principles of design. 4. 3 scenarios for improvement. 5. Preparing for implementation. And 6. Summary and references. By the time we wrap up this session, you're going to walk away with the exact strategic tools you need to take your projects from bogged down and inefficient to fully optimized. We're going to deeply understand the future state map, or FSM. We'll contrast the flow versus transformation paradigms, which is a total game changer. You'll firmly grasp push versus pull scheduling, and finally, we'll map out 3 iterative improvement scenarios. Honestly, mastering these concepts, it's going to fundamentally change how you look at project delivery. You know, just like Lord Ganesha is traditionally revered as the remover of obstacles, our absolute main goal when designing a future state map is to systematically identify and clear out every single obstruction, bottleneck, and piece of waste in your process. We are trying to pave a crystal clear, completely uninterrupted path for value to flow. In complex projects, these obstacles usually look like people waiting around, overproducing materials, or just bad communication between teams. Our whole design philosophy today is to act decisively against these barriers. Nothing, and I mean nothing, should stand in the way of delivering maximum value to the client. Section 1. Defining the future state. Envisioning the ideal. Let's jump right in. So, what actually is a future state map? Simply put, it's your ideal to-be workflow. It's the scenario where totally unnecessary waste, like double-handling documents or ordering excess materials, has been actively minimized or, better yet, completely eliminated. Think of the FSM as a highly visible, concrete target for your entire team. When you mapped out your current state, you put a big red circle around your gaps and delays. The future state design is where we actually fix them. It outlines the perfect sequential steps needed to get a job done smoothly, making sure we are adding value at literally every single stage without the friction. Why do we do it this way? Let me tell you, this is quite possibly the most powerful, paradigm-shifting question you can ever ask when looking at a workflow. By just constantly probing and challenging these deeply held assumptions, you can uncover some massive, immediate wins. So often, project teams do things simply because, well, that's how it's always been done, right? But by just asking why, you might suddenly realize that a bunch of time-consuming tasks can actually be combined or just totally scrapped. That genuine intellectual curiosity is the absolute catalyst for true optimization. Section 2. Core principles of design. Moving to flow.
Okay, if we want real efficiency, we have to talk about Koskela's Transformation Flow Value Theory, or TFV. Traditional project management almost always operates under the transformation model. That basically assumes a project is just a bunch of independent, isolated tasks stitched together. But under the flow model, things like waiting around for an approval, moving materials across a site, or doing endless inspections, those non-conversion activities are explicitly called out as waste. Traditional critical path methods often fail spectacularly because they completely ignore these flow activities, which just leads to wildly unstable schedules the minute real-world variability hits.
Because of that, designing your to-be workflow means you have to be targeting flow. You're replacing all those fragmented, disjointed tasks with a really smooth, continuous rhythm of value creation. Lean practitioners call this a one-piece flow, or setting a specific talk time. Think of talk time as the heartbeat of your process, perfectly synced up with what the client actually demands. By intentionally designing for this flow, you completely eliminate that chaotic, stop-and-go production that plagues almost every traditional build out there. Think of this flow like a giant, continuously turning wheel. It represents the perpetual, uninterrupted forward momentum we want in our new process. The wheel doesn't turn, suddenly stop, wait 2 weeks for an email authorization, and then frantically start spinning again. No, it turns smoothly and consistently. That is exactly the rhythm your project lifecycle needs. When you get rid of that start-stop friction, you drastically cut down on lost time and maintain incredible momentum from day one all the way to final delivery. Now, let's talk about how this logic flips our scheduling on its head, because this is huge. A massive part of cutting waste is completely ditching traditional push scheduling. Push scheduling relies on theoretical forecasts, basically just shoving work downstream whether the next team is ready for it or not. And what happens? You get excess inventory, huge bottlenecks, and super stressed teams. Instead, our optimized future state relies entirely on precise pull planning. In a pull system, work is only initiated when there is actual, verified demand from the next step in the process. So, by shifting the pull systems, you're absolutely guaranteeing that work only happens and materials are only delivered when the downstream station is genuinely ready for them. It is 100% demand-driven. If the next station is backed up, the previous station stops producing. Simple as that. It's a profound shift that completely wipes out the massive waste of waiting around, kills overproduction, and keeps your project from becoming a cluttered mess of half-finished tasks. Section 3. 3 scenarios for improvement. The iterative journey. Let's move on. Look, optimization does not happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day, right? You need a structured, iterative approach. Research shows you really need to define 3 distinct scenarios to transition safely. First, you have the improved state. These are your quick wins, short-term improvements you can roll out without totally upending your current operations. Next is the ideal state, targeting medium to long-term improvements that need bigger systemic changes. And finally, the perfect future state, which is this theoretical benchmark of a flawless process with literally zero waste. You grab the short-term wins first, build into the medium term, and always keep your eyes on that perfect horizon. But how do we actually track this journey? Well, we can't just rely on arbitrary numbers, because people will just gamify them to look good. Instead, we use qualitative guidance. You have to ask, to what extent is this recognized good practice actually happening in reality on the floor? The more consistently it happens, the closer you are to the ideal. But of course, at the same time, you do want to track hard metrics like total lead time, actual processing time, and the number of people involved, just to make sure the true efficiency of your output is actually moving in the right direction. Section 4. Preparing for implementation, bridging the gap. Okay, having a gorgeous, optimized map drawn up on a whiteboard is completely useless if we can't translate it into operational reality. This is where your yearly value stream plan steps up. It is your actionable, strategic blueprint. It takes the theory of the future state map and converts it into real-world, scheduled improvements. It spells out exactly what needs to be done, when it happens, and exactly who owns it. It is literally the bridge between how clunky your teams function today and how seamlessly they're going to flow tomorrow. And the tactical engine that drives that yearly plan? That is the PDCA cycle. Plan, do, check, act. You're going to use this cycle to iteratively roll out your changes. You plan the specific change, you do it in a controlled setting, you check the results against your baseline, and then you act, either standardizing the new process because it worked or tweaking it because it didn't. Plan, do, check, act. It's the absolute heartbeat of continuous improvement, or as we call it in lean methodology, Kaizen. Now, let's be realistic for a second. It's not always going to be a walk in the park. You are going to face friction. Research shows the biggest hurdles here are deep-seated resistance to change and, frankly, a lack of engagement, especially from highly specialized folks like your core designers. Plus, you'll definitely run into technical headaches trying to integrate product, process, and commercial data across the whole supply chain. But hey, acknowledging these challenges up front, that's your very first step in actively beating them. Section 5. Summary and references. Your path forward. Let's wrap this up. Let's do a quick recap of the big milestones we've covered today. We explored exactly how the future state actually fixes the waste we found in our current state map. We broke down the massive paradigm shift from the transformation model over to the flow model, calling out those non-conversion activities as pure waste. We swapped out that stressful push scheduling for demand-driven pull planning. And finally, we mapped out a solid implementation journey using 3 iterative stages, all powered by the continuous PDCA cycle. I want to leave you with a bit of a challenge. Optimization isn't just theory, it demands action. So tomorrow morning, when you look at your team's workflows, what is the very first process you're going to point to and genuinely ask, why do we actually do it this way? Take that specific question back to your teams tomorrow. Challenge those assumptions and just watch the hidden waste reveal itself. For those of you who really want to geek out and deepen your expertise, here are the foundational texts, theories, and research papers from the International Group for Lean Construction that informed today's explainer. Thank you so much for joining me on Bodhi Unified Flow, where we simplify complexity and amplify performance. Keep optimizing those value streams, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.